Howdy folks, this is John. I thought I'd talk about irrigation today. Irrigation depends on many things. How much you're going to irrigate. It depends on your soil, it depends on the plant, it depends on the season that you're in. If you've got a clay soil, it's a lot like cards or leaves that lay flat and they hook together and it tends to repel water. And so that often means that what you've got to do is add just a little bit of water here and there because it'll run off the surface very quickly until it's been hydrated well. And that's another reason to have lots of organic matter in the soil. It'll kind of keep things to where it's open and able to absorb it. It's like taking those decks of cards that are laid flat on the table and you pour a drink on top and it runs over. Well, you take yourself a sponge, you grind it up into pieces and you mix it in with those cards, and now a lot of them are propped up. And when that water gets into the sponges, they're going to kind of swell up a bit and force the clay apart or the deck of cards. So if you've got a sandy soil, it's like marbles and you're just pouring water in and it's going to run right through. Well, you take that same sponge, you grind it up and stick it in with all those marbles, and you've got yourself a really nice soil that can absorb the water instead of having it just run through. So it also depends on the type plant, and it depends on the weather. If you got a tree like a fig here, you want to give it less frequent watering, but you want the water to go really deep. So that may mean that if your soil can absorb it all, you just leave the water on for a good long time. And you get that soil 5-6 feet deep in the ground. And then you don't water for 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the type plant it is, and your weather, and your soil. All of these things have to be factored and taken into account. Then you got the type of irrigation you're going to use. This here is my favorite. It's mini sprinklers, micro sprinklers they're called. They put out a fair amount of water per hour and they spread it over an area about 12 feet across or so. For me, this works really well because I have a belief that you're dealing with more than just the soil right under the plant where the roots are going to go. You're also dealing with the fungi, the bacteria in the entire soil structure, the entire rhizosphere, and you want all of that to be evenly moist like a well-wrung out sponge all of the time. Even this area that is not planted, that right now is mulched with new fresh cactus mulch, that has to have water also, because the fungi will go from the roots of the plant and colonize this area in between and get moisture from that area, get nutrients from that area. It increases the reach of the roots of the plants by many times. Some people say a factor of 6, 7, 8, 9 times. Well, who couldn't use a little more root expansion? So that's why I like these, because in an area like this where everything is going to knit together, this is a 3-month-old garden now, it needs to be evenly moist through the entire thing so that the fungi and bacteria work on all of this ground as one big unit. And the different fungi elements will be giving nutrients to the plants that I plant here. And these asparagus, for instance, they're going to be getting nutrients from way over there. And those asparagus will be getting nutrients from here. It's all knitted together and it should all be moist. Then you have this type. This is a type of drip irrigation. This is through a drip hose. It puts out little drips here and there all along. There are different types. There are some that are going to be having just a drip come out every 6 inches or every here and there. Sometimes they'll kind of squirt out, which I don't like too much. The concept with this is it will wet the soil underneath there quite well, quite deeply. It won't be such a quick infiltration of water that it expels air entirely. Air will be going through with it, so everything stays well aerated and will get well watered. And you leave it on for a while, however long it works, depending on your crop, your soil, the weather, the stage of maturity of the plants. All these can matter. And the reason I use this in this particular spot, because I had a micro sprinkler here until about a week ago. I have switched to this one because we've got melons here. And melons and a few other crops, they don't like to get too much wetness on their leaves. If you can avoid it, it's better to use a drip system once they get going well. I use a sprinkler to begin, and after this can be on once or twice a week for a half an hour or so, and it will get deep into the ground. But what you have to do in this case is go to your soil now and then and actually dig in and see what the soil's like and the moisture levels. So this has been watered about like 4 days ago, and we see the soil is nice. I mean, this is a nice level of moisture, and the soil's got that, boy, this perfect level of moisture. They say that your soil should be the wetness of a well-wrung sponge, a well-wrung out sponge. So you just keep your soil around about that area, and you replenish it with water when it's starting to get a little bit on the dry side. If you see any wilting on the plants, that's an indication. And then some plants are very particular about water, and it has to be very, very even and stable. Some, like corn for instance, can take a little bit more ups and downs. They're okay with one deep watering once a week, and it's got to be deep because these corn roots can go nice and deep and they'll be able to sustain themselves. But corn does need water, and you may think of it as a desert type southwestern plant, but it grows where water flows. So these strawberries have the drip hose set underneath the soil. I piled soil up over it so it won't lose it by evaporation. Now melons, part of it is you don't want to get wet leaves. That'll bring molds and diseases, mildews, different little things that are not good. And once you get a little size on your melons, you gotta make sure that you try to keep them dry a bit. We got little flowers coming along here, getting ready to open up. These are a type of cantaloupe. And here we have marigolds. They're supposed to be good in the garden. Keep away nematodes and probably attract good beneficial insects. Another very good watering method is hand watering. And this can be done with various tools such as the granny type of hand watering bucket that you fill up and then carry over to the plant. I really like this one here. Now, make sure you get one that's good and durable so it'll last you a while, because It's better to spend twice as much money and have the thing last you 5 years than wind up having the thing start leaking on you from the first week. So go for good strong metal, and make sure you've got the adjustment knob, because the reason for that is sometimes you'll be watering plants where you don't want to have the full spray like that, so you just ratchet it down and get yourself a nice easy type of spray that the plants can deal with better. For instance, these carrots here, I don't want to give them too heavy of a spray that'll wash them out or anything like that. And then you've got your other types that everybody's seen, the little oscillating type that goes up and down and around, and all of those different types. Sometimes you're gonna, even if you've got the best system, you're gonna have to go out with some sort of a hand irrigation device, something like this, or a little hose sprayer. At times you're gonna need to go to some particular plants that are gonna need a little extra water. And that's another reason to have everything that's gonna have the same requirements be in the same section, so that they can all be treated the same. And hopefully all you have to do by hand that's going to be an extra thing will be newly planted plants, new seeds. They're going to need a little bit extra care for a couple of weeks. Have yourself a good mulch wherever you can get mulch in. Have it very thick. This doesn't get watered much, but yet when we dig under, we see that there's moisture. Look at that. That's nice and moist, and probably goes way down. We got a lot of small life, little worm. So that's the sort of thing you want to have, is a good, strong, rich soil full of life, something that is full of organic matter and humus, and use that instead of plastic to cover the soil. It'll rot in and make your soil better, and your plants will appreciate it. It'll hold moisture better, it'll accept moisture better. It's the best way to go overall. Well, folks, thank you very much for enduring my long monologue, unscripted. Have yourself a good day. Like and subscribe. We'll see you around now. Bye.